Hi everybody, welcome to the Steckline Report. Talk a little bit about agriculture again today. And why is a fund manager, friends, with $90 million in agricultural assets in Brazil and the U.S. selling American farmland? Well, it's happening. He says because everyone's bullish on land prices. His name is Scott Oakes, a partner owner of Harvest Capital, an investment firm with offices in Illinois and Iowa. He says he used to trade commodities in Chicago, and the time to sell was when everybody else thought prices couldn't go down. That's kind of the way I am with selling my products on the farm. I quit fooling with the Board of Trade quite some time ago because I found out that this measly old farmer didn't have a chance against those big boys. But it makes a lot of sense. When you really analyze agricultural product sales, a good time to sell is when everybody thinks it's going higher. And so here's a guy that's doing just exactly that. He may be moving too early, who knows? But I do feel that there's a problem with our grain markets today compared to a year ago today. A year ago today, you heard me say that I was bullish on these grain markets for at least a year, possibly two. I'm getting weak-kneed about the second year. Now, it still will be a lot better than what we were used to back about 4 or 5 years ago. Yes, corn and wheat and soybean prices will be, and cotton prices too, will be much higher than they were 4 or 5 years ago. But I got to tell you, to come back and reach the highs that we saw just a few months ago may be completely out of the question. In my mind, I think it probably is. You probably heard the figures coming from USDA just a few days ago. Carryovers being increased, the world's supply of grain is increasing, everybody's growing big crops. I'm still pretty excited about China, even though they've got one of the biggest crops in harvest right now that they've ever had for corn. But they're going to need a lot more than they can produce. In fact, some people say 5 to 10 million tons, and it will come from the United States, and they just bought some recently from us. So I'm still bullish on agriculture and our prices for the long term, which is only about 12 months out. But I have to tell you, there's a time when it's sell time. And this guy here kind of throws some interesting points out. He says when the Chicago Federal Reserve pegged Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana farmland prices up 19 to 21% in the second quarter, Corn Belt cropland appreciating faster than that. Markets are even hotter in parts of Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky, 27 to 33% in just 12 months, according to the Farm Credit Services of Mid-America. And they expect land inflation to continue, but only at a 5 to 6% rate. But friends, it could head the other way. Why? Well, this guy points out a few reasons why we ought to think about it. First of all, the general economy. It's flat, or sick, as I would call it. We're putting more land into production. The Chinese have announced huge agricultural investments in Argentina, Brazil, and many African countries, and boy, they are. They're buying up and leasing up and tying up farmland all across the world because they want to eat better. They, like a lot of other these countries, are sick of rice, friends, and I understand that. I tried that for a steady diet. Boy, it didn't go very long. And so now they've got some money, not just China, but a lot of these countries, India and some of the others, they've got a better economic system than they've ever had, and they're putting that money into good food products. So with that, we'll just let him make his case for selling land and let you and I decide on our own. By the way, the dairy reform bill's having a lot of problems back in Washington. We'll talk more about that on another Steckline Report. See you then.